All right, guys, we're back at the house. Just finished up the fourth stop on the BFL, the MFL Big Five Phoenix Bass Fishing League on Clarks Hill. It was the fourth stop at Clarks Hill Lake, and man, it was tough on me, honestly. You know, not to find fish, but to find good fish. We did manage to squeeze out of there with almost 12 pounds. We had 11, 12 is what we had, just out of check range. It took, I think it was 11:15 to get a check. And so we were just a little short of that. Finished in 19th place. And yeah, you got some points out the deal. We were still in the top 10 for AOI. So, you know, we got one tournament left. So that's a long shot, but hey, we're working at it. Just wanted to make a real short video on how I approached Clarks Hill this past weekend, yesterday to be exact. Hey, I dumbed it down, man. I made it real simple. You know, some of the fish were they were just funny acting, you know what I mean? Like I tried to run that brim pattern early on in practice, and it just wasn't panning out for me. The brim were there, but I just could not seem to find any bass that were feeding on them. So, but I, you know, did fish around deeper humps, you know, humps that came up to, I say, you know, 12 feet or so at the top. Some of them are, you know, 10 or 12 feet or so at the top, all the way out to 25 feet that I would fish down at the bottom of some of the humps. But it seemed the better population of fish seemed to be hanging in that 15-foot area, that 15-foot range. And so that's what I would run around and target, you know, for most of the tournament. So a couple of the baits that I used this weekend on Clarks Hill, when I went into the pockets to target those brim and to try to get that brim bite going and that brim pattern, I would go in the backs of the creeks and just run the bank with, you know, mega bass. That's mega bass popper, and then I also ran, you know, a second mega bass popper, a smaller one. So I would run these two, and you know, just try to get some activity going on those. But I was only able to find smaller fish. So these two poppers here, they did, you know, activate brim, but then again, I couldn't, like I said, maybe I just wasn't in the right areas. I couldn't find areas that had bass in there eating those brims. So that's how I approached that shallow bite in one of my days of practice. And like I said, it just didn't pan out for me. Whenever I got out deeper on the humps, and I'll tell you something different about my approach to the humps. There were fish on the shoals, and I call them shoals because they're the shallower humps that are marked with those buoy markers out there, those poles with the little buoys on the tops of them. There were fish on those, and they were plentiful, but I felt like they were too obvious. So I didn't want to. I just didn't want to be fishing fish that were being fished for all day. You know, so I felt like the easier fish for me to catch were going to be, you know, on spots that were not so obvious. So that's why I elected to go to my Lowrance and find humps that were not marked. And that's what I did. I found humps that weren't marked, you know, just by, you know, looking at contour lines, and just find the ones that didn't have buoy markers on them. And those are the ones that I fished. Now, whenever I did find them, I would scan around them, and I would, like I said, I stuck out in that 15-foot range, 15 to 18-foot range, and I would scan around for brush piles using my active target, And man, that thing, nothing's safe out there anymore, guys. Nothing's safe. You know, you can plant brush piles all you want. You can try to be as discreet about it all you want, but I'm telling you, somebody's gonna find your brush pile with either Garmin Live Scope, Humminbird Mega Imaging, or Lowrance Active Target. Just just prepare for it, because I have no idea what I'm fishing around when I go to Clarks Hill, but you pull up on a spot that looks good on your map and you take your live scope or your mega imaging or your active target, you take your forward facing sonar and you just go scanning around. I promise you, if somebody drops so much as a twig out there, you're gonna find it. So I found a bunch of brush in practice, and whenever I got around the brush, you know, I would get on top of it, and some of them I wouldn't get on top of. I would just cast to them. But here's how I approached those humps. That's a berry spoon. All right, so a vertical approach on some of those humps did work. All right, caught a few fish on that in practice. Not all of the stuff was shown on the videos that I posted because it was so hot out there and my camera would overheat. So I got some of my fish catches, but not all of them. So that was one way, that was one approach right there, was the berry spoon. All right, to check these fish and to see if, you know, if I'm fishing around brim or what are those down there? Are they white bass or whatever? I would also throw just a single Kitech swim bait out there. I'd throw that out there, and I would just kind of watch and see if they reacted to it, if they would follow it or whatever they would do. This is just on a 7/6 triad ducket cranking rod. Something with a lot of give in the tip, and you know, because you don't want to take it from them if they do decide to whack it. You just feel them load up on it, and I caught some fish on it, but I'll be honest with you, I caught one bass throwing a swim bait in whenever I was finding a school of fish, and I caught like 3 gigantic catfish. So, you know, get in tune with your forward-facing sonar and figure out what you're looking at, because don't get caught up in the fact that they're all bass, because they are not all bass. I did run into some schooling activity. You know, you hang around those humps long enough, and eventually the fish will drive those bait to the top and start busting on them. And what I found was, for whatever reason, you know, the bait was small. The bait was a little smaller this time around. They weren't, you know, schooling up on and eating herring or anything like that. So I had to downsize to catch anything on top, which I didn't catch a lot on top, because those fish, man, if you weren't right there in casting range and dropping that bait on them as they were busting, you did not catch them. They were that finicky, they were that quick. They came up, did their business, and went right back down. And if your bait wasn't in the water while they were actively feeding, you didn't catch them. Whenever I was lucky enough to get around them, that's what I would catch them on. That's what I would catch them on. That's just a bone-colored yellow magic. I do, however, change the hooks. These are vector hooks. That's the vector hook with the feather on it on the back there, and then both hooks are vector. So I changed the hooks, and I'd go after my schooling fish whenever I was able to or thought I could catch one with the yellow magic, yellow magic popper. The meat and the meat and potatoes of that 11-pound, 12-ounce sack was caught on a drop shot, and that was a round brush or just on a hump where I would just find the fish schooled up, and I would come out, find those fish on active target, and just pick up the drop shot and fire it out there. And then again, I'm watching it go down an active target, and I'm watching fish follow it down. And then you just kind of brace yourself because, you know, they would bite it. They would bite it. And my setup on the drop shot rig, you know, also, you know, I tried to keep that as simple as I could keep it. And I had the ½ ounce, because I like to feel that weight down there. I like to be able to feel it. I had a ½ ounce cylinder weight, and I had that paired up with 1/0 Gamakatsu drop shot hook. And that was also my worm that I caught the majority of them on, was just a nose hook witch's tea robo worm. It's a nose hook on a witch's tea robo worm. And every now and then you'd have to switch it up because those fish, they do get a little weary, and they, you know, would stop biting or whatever. And whenever they would do that, that's when I would go to the Aaron's Morning Dawn. I'll go to that Aaron's Morning Dawn and move on from there. Just give them something a little different to look at, and they would, you know, a lot of times they would fire again and go back to eating. So that's how I approach Clark's Hill, you know, my drop shot rig. And trust me, you know, everybody's got their pick, you know, and how they like to drop shot. This is not something that I do, and I'll be honest with you, the only time I even pick up one of these spinning rods is for a couple of reasons. If I know where the crappie are biting and I'm going crappie fishing, or if I'm going to Clark's Hill or an upstate lake where I think I'm gonna have to have a drop shot in my hand, and that's when I rig up a spinning reel. So this is not your run-of-the-mill rig that you would so-called want to drop shot with, because it's not lightweight. My line is not finessey, and I don't fish that way, and I don't trust it. So what I got here, I got 12-pound Seaguar, no braid with the fluorocarbon leader or anything like that. This is straight up 12-pound Seaguar fluorocarbon in Vizex, and I've just got it on a regular Lew's Xfinity rod. You know, this is a 7-foot medium heavy, and that's what I used. You ain't got to get all fancy with it. If you're around fish and you got the right thing out there, they're gonna eat it. So, you know, that's what I did. That's what I used. You know, and of course, everything else was, you know, this is a popper on a 7-foot medium heavy Micro Magic Pro. You know, that's paired up with a Lew's 7. That's a 7.0. You know, and the all the other stuff is pretty much your run-of-the-mill rods and reels. Nothing fancy. But that's how I approach Clark's Hill. You know, I'm gonna live and learn by practice all the time. And so next time I go up there, to be something different. You know, I would have loved to have seen the Ima bite hang on until we got there this time, but didn't work for me. I mean, we had wind and I thought that I could get it fired, but I did not. I heard some talk about it. I don't know how much of that I believe, but I did hear some talk about some Ima fish being caught, but whatever. So anyhow, it's hot. You guys stay hydrated, stay safe, and we'll see you out on the water. All right? Later.